Most men don't realize when it started. They just know that somewhere between 50 and 60, mornings began to feel different. Heavier, slower, less responsive. And when they try to remember the last time they woke up feeling strong, truly strong, the timeline gets blurry. This isn't talked about in waiting rooms. It's not something most men bring up during their annual checkups. But it's happening. Quietly. Consistently. And for many, it's been building for years. I'm Dr. Emily Carter, board-certified urologist, and for over a decade I've worked with men navigating changes they didn't see coming. Changes that started so gradually, they seemed like nothing. A little less energy here, a little less drive there. Mornings that used to begin with vitality now begin with hesitation. And in most cases, when I sit down with these men and walk through their daily routines, one pattern emerges over and over. It's not what they eat during the day, it's what they eat after the sun goes down, because here's what most men don't know. Your nighttime habits, especially what you consume in those final hours before bed, may be quietly interfering with the one process your body depends on to maintain masculine vitality: testosterone production. And testosterone doesn't just control desire. It controls energy, mood, focus, recovery, and yes, the very thing most men notice fading first. Morning strength. Let me explain what's really happening. When you eat late at night, your body faces a choice. It can either digest that food, or it can repair and restore itself. It cannot do both at full capacity. And for men over 50, this choice has consequences that compound over time. Let's start with what happens when you go to sleep on a full stomach. The moment food enters your system, your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin's job is to manage blood sugar, to shuttle glucose into your cells so it can be used or stored. That process is normal, expected. But insulin does something else most men never consider. It suppresses growth hormone and testosterone production. Growth hormone is released in deep sleep. It's your body's repair signal, the chemical messenger that tells your tissues to rebuild, your muscles to recover, your cells to regenerate. Testosterone follows a similar rhythm. It rises during the night, peaking in the early morning hours. That's why men used to wake up firm, responsive, ready. That's not coincidence, that's biology working as designed. But when insulin is elevated, that entire repair cycle is compromised. Your body shifts its resources. Instead of producing hormones, it's managing digestion. Instead of repairing tissue, it's storing energy. And the more frequently this happens, night after night, the more your baseline hormone levels begin to drift downward. This is where it gets concerning. Most men think of late-night eating as harmless, a snack, a habit, something they've done for years without consequence. And on the surface, it feels harmless. You're not in pain. You're not visibly sick. You just wake up feeling a little less sharp, a little more tired, a little less like yourself. But underneath, your endocrine system is adapting. It's learning that repair time is now digestion time, and over months, over years, that adaptation becomes your new normal. Let me walk you through a typical evening for many men I speak with. Dinner ends around 7 or 8. A few hours pass. Maybe there's television, maybe some work emails, maybe just relaxing. And then, somewhere around 9 or 10, hunger returns. It's not intense, just enough to notice. So they reach for something. Crackers, cheese, a handful of nuts, maybe a bowl of cereal or a piece of fruit. Nothing extreme, nothing that feels risky. And here's the thing, in isolation, that snack is not the problem. The problem is timing. The problem is frequency. The problem is that this same pattern repeats itself every single night, and the cumulative effect on your hormonal rhythm is significant. When you eat carbohydrates, even complex ones, your blood sugar rises. Insulin follows. And while your body is busy managing that glucose, your pituitary gland, the master regulator of your hormone system, receives a signal. Not now. Digestion first. Repair later. Except later never comes. Because by the time insulin finally drops, it's already morning. You're waking up. Your repair window has closed. And the testosterone surge that should have occurred in those deep sleep hours, the one that contributes to morning energy and responsiveness, never fully materialized. This is not dramatic. This is not sudden. This is erosion, slow, steady, unnoticed until the effects accumulate. Now let's talk about what this looks like from the inside. Your body operates on something called a circadian rhythm. It's an internal clock that governs when hormones are released, when digestion is most efficient, when repair processes activate. For millions of years, this rhythm was synchronized with daylight. You ate when the sun was up. You fasted when it was down. Your body used that fasting window to clean, repair, and restore. Modern life disrupted that rhythm. Late-night meals, snacking before bed, constant food availability. And while that seems convenient, it comes with a metabolic cost. Because when food is always coming in, your body never fully enters that deeper state of repair. It stays in a semi-fed state, managing nutrients, storing energy, but never fully shifting into restoration mode. For younger men, the system compensates. Testosterone is high enough to maintain itself even under suboptimal conditions. But after 50, when natural testosterone production begins to decline by about 1% per year, those suboptimal conditions start to matter. A lot. The repair window shrinks, the hormone surge weakens, and the cumulative effect of years of late-night eating begins to show up in ways men do not immediately connect. Fatigue that doesn't improve with more sleep, a midsection that won't respond to exercise, a drive that feels muted, mornings that lack the clarity and energy they once had. This is where many men tell themselves it's just age, just genetics, just life. And while age is a factor, it's not the only factor. Because when I work with men who shift their eating patterns, who stop consuming food in those final hours before sleep, something interesting happens. Not immediately, not overnight, but gradually, consistently, they begin to notice changes. Their sleep deepens, their energy stabilizes, their morning response begins to return. Not because they added something, because they removed an interference. Let me be very clear about what I'm describing here. I'm not suggesting that a single late-night snack destroys your testosterone. I'm not saying that one evening of eating before bed creates lasting damage. What I am saying is that patterns matter, repetition matters. And when a habit becomes nightly, when it becomes automatic, the body begins to adapt to that habit as if it's the new normal. Your endocrine system is extraordinarily sensitive to routine. It learns, it adjusts. And when insulin repeatedly rises at night, when digestion repeatedly takes priority over repair, your hormone production begins to reflect that priority. Testosterone levels drift lower, growth hormone release becomes less robust, and the overnight restoration process that used to leave you feeling recharged begins to feel incomplete. Men describe this in different ways. Some say they wake up feeling like they never fully rested. Others say their mind feels foggy, like they're operating at 70% capacity. Still others notice it physically. Less morning firmness, slower recovery after workouts, a body that feels heavier, less responsive, less alive. And when they ask their doctor about it, they're often told it's normal. That testosterone naturally declines. That energy decreases with age. And while those statements are true, they're also incomplete. Because the rate of decline is not fixed, it's influenced by lifestyle, by sleep quality, by metabolic health, and yes, by when you eat. There's something else happening here that most men don't consider: fat storage. When you eat late at night, especially carbohydrates or sugary foods, and then go to sleep, your body has very little opportunity to burn that energy. You're not moving, you're not active. So that glucose gets stored. And in men over 50, where does it tend to accumulate? The midsection. Belly fat is not just cosmetic. It's metabolically active tissue. It produces estrogen. Yes, estrogen. The more abdominal fat you carry, the more testosterone gets converted into estrogen through a process called aromatization. This is a vicious cycle. Lower testosterone leads to more fat storage. More fat storage leads to more estrogen production. More estrogen further suppresses testosterone, and the entire system begins to spiral downward. Now, late-night eating alone is not the sole cause of abdominal fat, but it contributes. It disrupts insulin sensitivity. It interferes with fat oxidation during sleep. And over time, it makes it harder for your body to maintain a healthy body composition, which in turn makes it harder to maintain healthy testosterone levels. This is not something you feel in a single night. This is something you notice after months, after years, when your pants fit differently, when your energy doesn't bounce back like it used to. When you look in the mirror and realize the body you're seeing doesn't quite match the one you remember. And here's the part that concerns me most. Many men accept this. They assume it's irreversible. They think, this is just what happens after 50. But when we look at the research, when we examine men who maintain higher testosterone levels into their 60s and 70s, one common thread emerges. They don't eat late. Their eating window closes earlier in the day. They give their bodies time to fast, to rest, to repair. Let me take you deeper into the mechanism. When insulin is high, your body cannot access stored fat for energy. Insulin is a storage hormone. Its presence signals your cells to hold on to energy, not release it. This is fine during the day when you need that energy. But at night, when you're supposed to be fasting, when your body is supposed to be dipping into fat stores and using that energy for repair, elevated insulin blocks that process. So instead of burning fat while you sleep, instead of using that energy to fuel cellular repair and hormone production, your body stays in storage mode. It holds on to everything. And testosterone production, which requires energy, which requires resources, gets deprioritized. This is subtle. You won't feel it happening. But over weeks, over months, the effects accumulate. Your testosterone levels trend lower. Your energy becomes less stable. Your recovery slows. And the vitality that once felt automatic begins to feel like something you have to work for. Now some men hear this and think, but I'm eating healthy snacks. Nuts, fruit, yogurt, that's fine, right? And while those foods are certainly better than processed junk, the timing still matters. Because it's not just about what you eat, it's about when your body has to process it. If you're eating at 10 p.m. and going to bed at 11, your digestive system is still active when you should be entering deep sleep. Your insulin is still elevated when your growth hormone should be rising, and your repair process is delayed, interrupted, or incomplete. This is the hidden cost of late-night eating. Not immediate harm, not obvious damage, just a quiet, persistent interference with your body's natural restoration cycle. Let's talk about sleep quality for a moment, because this ties directly into testosterone. Deep sleep, specifically the REM and slow-wave stages, is when your body produces the majority of its testosterone. Studies show that men who sleep poorly have significantly lower testosterone levels than men who sleep well. And one of the most common disruptors of deep sleep? Digestion. When you eat before bed, your core body temperature stays elevated. Your digestive system is working. Your metabolism is active. All of this interferes with your ability to enter those deeper stages of sleep where hormonal restoration occurs. You might sleep for 8 hours, but if that sleep is fragmented, if you're not reaching deep sleep consistently, your testosterone production suffers. Men often tell me they wake up multiple times during the night, sometimes to urinate, sometimes for no clear reason. They just wake up. And when we trace the pattern back, late-night eating is frequently involved. Because a full stomach, an active digestive system, and elevated blood sugar all contribute to restless sleep. And here's what concerns me. Most men don't connect these dots. They think poor sleep is just stress, just age, just something they have to live with. But when they stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bed, when they allow their digestive system to quiet down before sleep, many of them report something remarkable. Their sleep deepens, they wake up less, and over time they begin to feel more rested, more energized, more like themselves again. This is not magic. This is simply removing an interference and allowing the body to do what it was designed to do. Now, I want to address something that often comes up. Hunger. Because many men say, but I get hungry at night, I can't just ignore it. And that's a fair concern. But here's what's important to understand. True physiological hunger and habitual hunger are not the same thing. If you've been eating late at night for years, your body has adapted. It expects food at that time, it sends hunger signals at that time, but those signals are not necessarily indicating a true need for calories. They're indicating a pattern, a habit, and habits can be reshaped. When men begin to close their eating window earlier, the first few nights can feel uncomfortable. Hunger appears. The urge to snack is strong, but something interesting happens after about a week. The body adapts. The hunger signals shift, and what once felt like a need begins to feel optional. This is because your body is remarkably flexible. It learns, it adjusts. And when it realizes that food is no longer coming after a certain time, it stops sending those signals. Hunger fades, sleep improves. And the overnight fasting period, the time when your body should be repairing and restoring, finally gets the space it needs. This is not deprivation. This is realignment. You're not eating less. You're eating within a more strategic window, a window that supports hormonal health rather than interfering with it. Let me paint a picture of what this interference looks like over time. Imagine a man in his early 50s, healthy, active, no major medical issues, but he's noticed changes. His energy dips in the afternoon, his workouts feel harder, his recovery takes longer, and his mornings, once a time of vitality, now feel sluggish. He eats well during the day, he exercises regularly, he thinks he's doing everything right. But every night, around 9 or 10, he has a snack. Nothing excessive, just something to satisfy that evening hunger. Crackers and cheese, a protein bar, maybe some fruit and yogurt. It's automatic, habitual. And it's been that way for years. What he doesn't realise is that this nightly routine is creating a metabolic pattern that works against him. Every night, insulin rises, growth hormone is suppressed, testosterone production is blunted, and his body, instead of entering a deep repair state, spends the night managing digestion. Over months, his baseline testosterone continues its natural decline, but faster than it should. His body composition begins to shift, a little more fat around the middle, a little less muscle tone, and his energy, his drive, his sense of vitality, all trend downward. He doesn't connect it to his evening snack. Why would he? It's such a small thing, such an innocent habit, but patterns matter. And when a pattern repeats nightly for years, the cumulative effect is significant. Now, let's talk about what happens when this pattern is interrupted. When a man stops eating 3 to 4 hours before bed. When he allows his body to enter the night in a fasted state. Initially, not much changes. The first week might even feel harder. Hunger, restlessness, the body protesting the new routine. But then something shifts. Sleep begins to deepen. Mornings feel lighter. Energy stabilizes. And over the course of several weeks, many men report something they hadn't felt in years. Morning firmness, not every day, not with the intensity of their 20s, but present, consistent. A sign that their body is beginning to function the way it was designed to. This is not a guarantee, this is not a prescription. But it is a pattern I have observed repeatedly in my practice. When men remove the nightly interference, when they give their hormonal system the space to operate uninterrupted, the body often responds. Testosterone levels may stabilize, growth hormone release may improve, body composition may begin to shift, not dramatically, not overnight, but gradually, steadily, in a way that feels sustainable. And here's what I find most telling. When I ask these men what changed, most of them say the same thing. They didn't add something, they removed something. They stopped doing the thing that was quietly working against them. Let's bring this back to a broader perspective, because late-night eating is not happening in isolation. It's part of a larger lifestyle pattern that many men fall into after 50. Longer work hours, more stress, less physical activity, poor sleep, and habits that feel harmless but accumulate into something more significant. Each of these factors puts pressure on the endocrine system. Each one pulls testosterone levels downward, and when they combine, when multiple stressors converge, the decline accelerates. Late-night eating is just one piece of that puzzle, but it's a piece you control. It's a variable you can change without medication, without complicated interventions, without disrupting your entire life. You simply shift when you eat, you close your eating window earlier, and you give your body the overnight fasting period it needs to restore itself. This is not about perfection. This is not about never eating after 7 p.m. again. This is about recognizing that timing matters, that the body operates on rhythms, and that when you align your habits with those rhythms, your health responds. I want to address one more thing before we close. The psychological aspect. Because for many men, late-night eating is not just about hunger, it's about routine, comfort, a way to unwind after a long day. And changing that habit requires more than just knowledge. It requires a shift in how you think about evening time. Many men tell me that the hardest part is not the hunger, it's the absence of ritual. The evening used to include a snack, a moment of relaxation, a small pleasure at the end of the day. And when that's removed, there's a void. This is real. And it matters. Because sustainable change is not just about willpower, it's about replacing one pattern with another. If evening snacking is your wind-down ritual, you need a new ritual. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's a cup of herbal tea. Maybe it's a few minutes of stretching or reading. Something that signals the end of the day without requiring food. This is where many men struggle. Not because they lack discipline, but because they haven't built a new structure to replace the old one. And without that structure, the habit returns. The snack comes back, and the interference continues. So where does this leave us? Here's what we know. Late-night eating elevates insulin. Elevated insulin suppresses growth hormone and testosterone production. Over time, this pattern contributes to declining energy, reduced vitality, and changes in body composition. It's not the sole cause, but it's a contributor. And for men over 50, when testosterone is already declining naturally, every contributor matters. The body is not fragile, it's adaptive, resilient, but it operates best when it's given the conditions it needs to function. And one of those conditions is an overnight fasting period. A window of time when digestion stops, when insulin drops, when repair processes can activate without interference. Most men don't think about this. They eat when they're hungry, they follow habits they've had for decades, and they assume that if something were wrong, they'd feel it immediately. But hormonal decline is not immediate, it's gradual, and by the time you notice the effects, the pattern has been established for years. This is not about blame. This is not about regret. This is about awareness, about understanding that small habits repeated nightly create long-term effects, and that those effects, while subtle, are not insignificant. The body always adapts, that's its strength, but it adapts to whatever conditions you provide. If you provide late-night meals, elevated insulin and disrupted sleep, it adapts to that. Testosterone drifts lower, energy becomes less stable, recovery slows, and mornings, those early hours that used to signal vitality, begin to feel heavy. But the reverse is also true. When you change the conditions, when you remove the interference, the body adapts to that as well. Not instantly, not perfectly. But over time, many men begin to notice a shift, a lightness, a steadiness, a sense that something has returned. I can't tell you that changing when you eat will reverse every aspect of aging. I can't promise that your testosterone will surge or that you'll feel 20 years younger. But I can tell you this. The men I work with who stop eating late, who give their bodies that fasting window, often report feeling more like themselves, more clear, more capable, more alive, and that's worth paying attention to. Because the body remembers how to function. It just needs the right conditions. And sometimes the most powerful change is not what you add, it's what you remove.